Well. There's just not a lot of news going on around the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, we signed Sadiq Charles the other day, but that's probably not what many they describe as major news. I mean, I like the move, and then you got some people who didn't. And then we got a lot of mock drafts coming out by some of the media. We got mock drafts coming out on social media, and everybody is trying to put in work and trying to tell you who the Cowboys should get and criticize you if you don't agree with them. Everybody wants to be right. But at the end of the day, none of us get to pick or choose who the Cowboys are going to get in the draft. And then, of course, free agency. Free agency has kind of came and gone, but the Cowboys are still kind of busy. I mean, really what we call free agency was that first week, but the Cowboys have continued to stay busy. They've continued to add pieces. Some people don't like them. I like them. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But the biggest question the Dallas Cowboys have going into this season is Brian Schottenheimer. What is he going to do? What is he going to be? What will the team look like under Brian Schottenheimer? And we got some people, they're extremely negative on Brian Schottenheimer. We got some people who are saying, let's wait and see. And then you got some of us who are very optimistic about Brian Schottenheimer. And now there's an article that I want to bring to your attention, but I'm also going to bring some other things to your attention and see if we can figure out, are we too excited about Brian Schottenheimer? Let's talk Cowboys. We're about to talk facts. Welcome, Cowboy fans and Cowboy haters alike. I'm the G, and I'm the host of Let's Talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. And if you like this video, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know the next time we post another video or go live. And if you haven't already become a channel member, please do. We have a lot of great things coming on this channel. Now let's talk facts. Brian Schottenheimer. He is the single biggest question that we have about this team going forward. The draft is going to be great, I believe. Free agency, for me, it has been so much better than it has been in past seasons. I absolutely love what the Cowboys have done. But no matter what, the biggest question is, what is this team going to look like under Brian Schottenheimer? And we got an article over here on Athlon Sports. And this is what kind of got me wondering, like, are we too excited about Brian Schottenheimer? Over here on Athlon Sports, shout out to Athlon Sports. They give us a lot of good news about the Dallas Cowboys. But again, you know, it's just like everything else. Not everything they say or they write, you have to agree with, we have to agree with, and it may not even be right. Well, they wrote something over here that I want to bring to our attention. You tell me what you think about it, because I'm going to give you some facts about it that maybe this is somewhat of an exaggeration. But they write over here, it says, Schotty's fingerprints push Cowboys. Major roster change. It says the size trend isn't a coincidence. It's a statement. And it starts with Dallas Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer. Landon Holyfield wrote this. He wrote, if you've been paying attention to the Dallas Cowboys offseason personnel moves, there's a clear pattern forming, and it's a direct reflection of Brian Schottenheimer's fingerprints on the franchise's identity reset. The word of the offseason has been physicality, and the simplest way to spot that shift, size and physicality. Call it a coincidence if you want, but when every offensive lineman you bring in or seriously consider sits at 320 plus pounds with tree trunk lower halves and trench warrior energy, that's not scouting. That's a philosophy shift. So he says so far, the list of the free agent signed or draft prospects on the 30 list includes Robert Jones, 6'4", 322, undrafted free agent. Sadiq Charles, 6'4", 322 pounds, undrafted free agent. Jonah, 6'4", 324 pounds, he's a 30 visit. Armand Membu, 6'4", 332 pounds, he's a 30 visit. Kelvin Banks, 6'5", 315 pounds with room to grow, 30 visit. He said all of them Powerful people movers. He says, for too long, the Cowboys favored finesse on both sides of the ball. And in each of Dallas's most recent and embarrassing losses, San Francisco, Green Bay, Buffalo, Arizona, the common denominator has been getting bullied in the trenches. This offseason, under Brian Schottenheimer's influence, the Cowboys are course correcting hard. And, he goes on to give these numbers. And again, it's the same stuff he's been talking about the size. He says that's intentional trench warfare. He says, but it's more than size. It's psychological. Shotties bar fight guys who set a tone. The finesse guys fall in line and the premier players feel protected. Meanwhile, opponents take notice. He says, don't get it twisted. They aren't there yet, but they are well on their way. So don't be surprised if another offensive lineman is firmly in play with one of the Cowboys' top 2 picks. He says this isn't a pivot. It's simply long overdue evolution, and it's happening right in front of us. And that kind of got my spidey senses tingling. Because what is he talking about? That the Cowboys are picking these bigger players under Brian Schottenheimer. So that caused me to go over here to the Dallas Cowboy depth chart. And I just want to quickly look at some players that the Cowboys picked up before Brian Schottenheimer started, quote unquote, putting his fingerprints all over the Dallas Cowboys. So we can look at it as early as last season. There was one Tyler Guyton. And when we look at Tyler Guyton is 6'7", 322 pounds. Not really something that I don't believe that had anything to do with Brian Schottenheimer. There was who last year also. There was Cooper Beebe. 6'4", 335 pounds. This was not Brian Schottenheimer. And then if you look over here some more, we have Ty Smith. He wasn't a Brian Schottenheimer pickup. Let's see here. He was 6'6", 332 pounds. Doesn't seem like, I'm just saying, you could just pretty much go down the line and I can appreciate what this guy wrote, but I think he needed to do a little bit more research when you start looking into some of these guys. Now, Brock Hoffman, he is a little bit lighter. He's 6'4", 302 pounds. But then again, let's go back and let's see. Another guy, I believe, Awesome Richards. He's, okay, I see 6'4", 307 pounds. Again, let's look at one Terrence Steele, because what we're trying to see is this really a Brian Schottenheimer thing. But again, okay, I see. Well, if we look at Terrence Steele, he's 6'6", 310 pounds. Okay, I can see maybe where he's getting some of this from. Even though we got two and three, really, that were one that was here before him. Three that the Cowboys picked before we started seeing what the Cowboys started doing in this offseason. Now, are we getting a little too excited, and are we giving Brian Schottenheimer a little too much credit? Well, I can say this. Let me answer this. I think the thing with Brian Schottenheimer, when you think about how some of us are looking at this, we're not looking at this necessarily from the players that he's been bringing in. I never thought about the weight thing. The trenches, I've talked about it and I've been talking about it. The trenches are important. Teams that win championships can typically control both lines of scrimmage. They are very good in the trenches, offensive line and defensive line. That's how the Cowboys won in the 90s. That's how they won in the 70s. That's how teams continue to win. The Philadelphia Eagles did it this year. When you can control the trenches, you can typically control the game. And so this is a basic concept. I don't really even look at it as a Brian Schottenheimer concept. But let me go back to this article, because I do think some people are missing what we, or those of us who are optimistic about Brian Schottenheimer, what we are optimistic about. It's not the players as much as it is the philosophy. And the one thing that stood out to me in this, and the one thing I can tell you that I am excited about as it pertains to Brian Schottenheimer, is he keeps using the word physicality, which is not something that has been associated with the Cowboys over the last few seasons, especially in Dak Prescott's tenure, because it definitely was not a staple under Mike McCarthy. It wasn't. It doesn't seem like that was in the Dallas Cowboys' head. And so as it applies to Brian Schottenheimer, these are the things that have us excited about Brian Schottenheimer. Let me take you back for a moment. A lot of people are looking at Brian Schottenheimer only. But what has me excited about Brian Schottenheimer are the coaches they put around Brian Schottenheimer. The coaches that they have put behind Brian Schottenheimer. They are behind, or at least it sounds like and seems like they're behind Brian Schottenheimer. What has me excited about Brian Schottenheimer is the philosophy of Brian Schottenheimer. You can tell that everyone who he talks to, everyone who he interviews, from coaches to players, they all start talking like Brian Schottenheimer. They talk about the physicality of the team. Well, this is the new offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. His name is Clayton Adams. It's not just Brian Schottenheimer. This is what got me excited. The coaches around him. Listen to what he says.
What do you want your offensive lineman?
The same thing that I want from every player on offense, and that is to create violence in the game, be aggressive, run, hit. I think that every decision that we make schematically needs to lean that direction. So if there's gray area, what is going to allow these guys to play more free and run and hit and be violent?
He said be violent. This is what's got some of us excited about this whole regime. It's not just Brian Schottenheimer. What started clicking with me was the coaches that they started putting around him. Do y'all remember when this was said?
I want to really thank the Jones family for bringing me on this job and working with the players to have an attacking defense.
It's this kind of talk coming from the offensive and the defensive coordinator. They have bought into a philosophy, and you can tell that philosophy is physicality. And even when you think about what we continue to hear Brian Schottenheimer say over and over and over, just recently, do we remember when he said this?
Some of the other first-time head coaches, right? If they need to get something done from a contractual standpoint, they're learning the names, right? If they have to get something done with travel, they're learning, okay, who do I go to? I know all those people. So that's good. But, just the constant communication with Flus and Nick and those guys. And, hey, how's it going on the defensive meetings? We have conversations, every day. But it becomes a lot. And as you get in the draft, your focus, you have to put things into buckets. And so the bucket.
I just want you to catch the part, the communication part. The communication part. The fact that they had all the coaches involved in the combine at the combine this time. The fact that they got all the coaches involved, the constant communication, and he's continuing to give the message. But that isn't the only part. Remember when he said this?
What do you want your offensive identity to be?
Physical. Again, I talked a little bit in the opening press conference about, the marriage between the run game and the action passes. But, as a football team, as an offense, we want to be physical. My MO has always been to run the football. I really believe that the game, like I said, is up front. Led the league twice, the coordinator, proud of that. I think getting a guy like Clayton Adams really helps us as a coordinator. His knowledge, I've been tracking him for a couple years now. He's an incredible mind when it comes to not just the run game, but just how to attack defenses and how to get favorable leverage and things like that. But physical is the first thing that kind of jumps out at me.
We look at this draft class. How familiar are you?
This is the stuff that not only has me optimistic, but excited about Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer wants to run the ball. Not only does Brian Schottenheimer wants to run the ball, do you remember when he said this?
To think about, but also you mentioned depth at running back. How vocal will you be saying, okay, this guy is good, but we have a lot of depth there, and this is the position. This position over here is more of what it needs. How do you envision handling all of that?
Yeah.
First time.
Well, it's actually funny because I told Felucci the other day, I said, damn, you look at free agency, you'd think I'm a defensive head coach.
Did you see what he said? It's this kind of talk. Brian Schottenheimer, whether you like him, love him, or hate him, the one thing we know from everything he's saying, he gets it. He absolutely gets it. He understands it has to be in the trenches. The Cowboys have got to get better in the trenches. And understanding he's working with the Joneses. He is doing the best that he can, at least as far as I can tell, he's doing the best that he can. He's getting his philosophy out there. And I do believe that some of these things they've done in the offseason, they've been Brian Schottenheimer. They have been Brian Schottenheimer's influence. I don't think they were all Brian Schottenheimer. I think it's a collective of them listening to the people, listening to some of the scouts, listening to Will McClay. I think it's a combination of things that they're doing and bringing in some of these players because they believe that they can coach them with the skill that they have and the philosophy that they're following. So, Brian Schottenheimer, he gets it. He absolutely gets it. So, for me, I can't answer it for you. But for me, the article from Athlon Sports, may be a little bit exaggerated, but upon further examination, I can maybe see what they're saying. He does. I mean, there was a couple we got that were heavier, some who were not before he got here. But I guess if we look at it, he is intent on getting bigger, heavier guys. Maybe that's what's in his mind. But at the end of the day, it's not the size of those players. It's his philosophy. It's his philosophy, because a man's philosophy, the Bible tells us something very simple. So as a man thinketh, so is he. And one thing about him, he's not just saying it. We got the proof that he did it just by looking at the Russell Wilson years. Yeah, I'm excited. And if you choose not to be excited, hey, choose not to be excited. But don't get mad at me because I'm excited. Don't get mad at me because I believe the Cowboys are going to be better. Don't get mad at me because based on what I'm seeing, I believe the Cowboys have gotten better. Now, the grades on these players, hey, that's a whole different discussion. But when you look at this team from last year and you look at where they are now, even before the draft, all the Cowboys have to do is go in this draft and do the right thing. Wide receiver, running back, and then go from there. And this team is going to be exponentially better than what it was last year. So, hey, you can do what you want to do. But for me, I choose to be excited. I choose to be optimistic. And I don't think we're too excited about Brian Schottenheimer. I don't. At least I don't think I am. And I don't think those who think like me, I don't think we're too excited about Brian Schottenheimer. I think we probably have the kind of enthusiasm we should have for our new head coach. But y'all tell me what you think in the comments. I will not criticize you for it. Like, share, subscribe. And until the next time, let's talk Cowboys. We talk facts. Peace.